What's up? Welcome to 22 Booker Podcast. I'm your host, Corlandos Scott, along with Ryan Lipscomb. This is a podcast where we just dive deep into the world of art. We explore every corner of what it means to be an artist, or at least we try to. But we are joined by a very special guest today. Ryan, can you introduce who we have on with us?
Yeah, today we have the very talented, uh, the very talented Landon Moss, who is our lead actor for our film Morning. He's playing the character of Noah Butler. Landon, how you doing, man?
I love it. I love
I'm good, man. Hey, that was a great intro, man. That
I
was
worked
great.
on
it.
it.
Man,
I
I was, man,
practiced it.
I
It's
was
all for
about to
you.
tear up, man.
What's funny is
No,
like
Exactly.
you look dead in Landon's eyes. Like
sitting in the mirror practicing.
I gotta say enough. I gotta get enough out there. And he's like, "What you gonna say? The who? Who am I?"
You're pointing to me like this.
Staying the whole time.
Oh man,
Oh yeah, dude. It's cool, man. I'm excited to talk to y'all. I'm excited to work with y'all. Y'all are such great artists from what I've seen. I've looked at some of y'all work and stuff too. Well, Ryan, I've been trying to find one of your films, Bruise, man. That thing.
now Bruce was shot when?
2012. 2012.
2012, 13, something like that. All right. A couple years ago, I'm at a screening.
I'm still in high school.
I want to say it was either at Lamley or it was at one of the theaters on the west side. And I'm getting popcorn at the concession stand, and I'm with one of my boys, Chike Okonkwo, and he's been in tons of stuff. And the guy at the concession stand shouts him out. He was like, "Oh man, yo, I loved you in this, I loved you in that." And Chike was like, "Oh man, thank you so much, I appreciate it." He looked me dead in the gateways to my soul and was like, "Yo, were you in Bruise?" It's like, man, stop, bro, stop. Like this is like I'm looking directly at Chike. I was like, Chike, who is this? Like, why did you set this up? He was like, man, I don't know. He looked me dead in my eyes and was like, you were in the short film Bruise. I was like, first of all, that was like, you was a kid.
Yeah,
Second
that's
of
crazy.
all, like, how did you get it? Where is it? But I'll say to Brian, Bruise has touched more people than you realize, and more people than I realize too.
Look, it's I'm always glad to hear that. As the writer director, I did that. I did it in film school too. It was my USC thesis film. But it's like, whenever there's never enough money, never enough resources, stuff like that. You have a vision in your head for how you want a movie to go and stuff like that. And like, I'm proud of the movie, but also, as the writer director, you always look at a film as a fact, and like everybody else is looking at it objectively, and you're kind of looking at it more subjectively in terms of like, this is your baby, you birthed in the world. You're kind of like, oh man, you look at it, you're like, man, I wish I did this, I wish I did that, I wish this was different, that was different. You know what I mean? And it's like, yeah, and like, a lot of people always still coming to me about Bruise, and they're like, yo, like, if they worked on it, or like, they saw it when it premiered and stuff like that, or they maybe saw it after the fact. Look, I think it's still in the archives over at SC, whatever. But yeah, they're like, yo, man, like, I remember Bruise, like, this happened to me at a party like a couple months ago. Like, somebody was like, yo, man, Bruise, that one, you know what I'm saying? I'm very happy about that, because like, I remember like when we finished that film, I remember like we did the final mix, final sound mix in the film, whatever, and it was like such a weird feeling. I don't know if you guys like ever saw Zero Dark 30 with Jessica Chastain, whatever. And I remember I was likening like finishing that film to like Jessica Chastain at the end of Zero Dark 30, where she's just sitting on the plane by herself, and it's like her starts breaking down in tears. He's like, "What now? What do I do now?"
Yeah.
That's what it was like finishing that film. I'm sure it's going to be the same kind of similar way when we finish Morning. You know what I mean? So
Yeah. Well, one of the most amazing parts about our journey through Morning as producers so far has been assembling this cast. I mean, the amount. It's always, as an actor who produces, it's always interesting for me to be on the other side of the table and watching casting videos and watching stuff. And you hear people say all the time, like, oh, that person walks in the door, you know it, or that, this happened, oh, they approach it a different way. And
Yeah.
it's hard to understand it until you are actually casting. And man, I am thrilled to say that Landon, you were one of those people who, like, I got it. I understood what they say.
No, appreciate
And
it.
so when Ryan came to our production meeting and was like, yeah, this is the way we need to go, I was like, I'm glad you said it, because if you had said somebody else, I was gonna be like, but how
Mm.
you saw his stuff, right? So, man, we just
Hey, can I
so
ask?
we want to hear from you. We want to know more
Oh, I'm sorry.
about
Go
you.
ahead. Go ahead.
Like,
Go ahead.
no, where is this Landon character from? How did you land, in our lives as producers, and just, to how did your gift to the world come to be?
Yeah. So before I get into the whole gift that I have presented to the world, what is the thing that you like? Because I also have been like directed and wrote stuff. But like, what's the thing that you saw that? Because there's certain things that like just connect. Like, what is the thing?
We could do it. We could do it
Or should we
now.
wait? Should we wait for that
Do
later?
it
Should we do that later?
Yeah.
Again,
Nah.
Ryan's
Let's do it now, man. Move
Ryan's
right
the
up, man. Come on,
director,
bro.
writer, director. So, I mean, he has a
Yes.
definitive word, but I can just talk about it from my perspective. For me, I realized that I've lived with Noah, the character, for, at this point, months and months and months, years. And
Mm,
so he was somebody to me. Like, he was a certain person to me. And I'm not talking about the way he looked or the way he moved or whatever, but just like who that guy was. And I wish I was more articulate to be able to explain it, but it was like you and me saw the same Noah, if that makes sense. You and me saw the same Noah. And it's not, yeah,
mm,
it was alignment
absolutely.
in who
The
the character
alignment right there.
was for
Yeah.
me. And it wasn't necessarily in a particular piece of the performance, like, well, he took his BT, or he went, it was just the embodiment of that
Hmm.
guy. And I hear actors, I mean, I've heard casting directors say a lot of times, don't try to be who you think we want, because sometimes we don't know who we want. And I get that. I get that. I didn't,
Yeah.
there was things that other actors
Hmm.
brought to their auditions, and I was like, oh man, that was interesting. That was interesting. And if I were a casting director for a living, I'd be like,
Hmm.
when I want that thing, like, that was dope. When I want, I'm going to remember him. When I
Yeah.
want that
I
thing, I'm
know.
going to
Yeah.
remember her. But for this particular role, I was like,
Hmm.
oh, yeah, that's exactly what I thought. And it feels just as good seeing it as how I pictured it all these, months leading up to that audition process. But
Yeah.
man,
Yeah, I would say, like,
That's a
just
beautiful
from
thing.
my standpoint as like the writer, director, like I remember in like film school, whatever, like professor always say you always look at, like, in a movie, there's always that lean in moment, like in a really good film, like something happens that makes you kind of sit up in your chair, like lean forward. You know what I'm saying? Like kind of just drawing you into the story, right? And so, like for
Hmm.
me, as a writer director, I write a character, I write the scenes, I write the story, whatever. Like, I got, there's a very, you know, there's a particular thing I'm doing. It's kind of like a whole kind of thing I'm trying to weave, whatever, right? To kind of tell the particular story, and like obviously a lot of times in like my characters usually have like a piece of myself in them, right? Or a piece of like somebody that I
Yeah.
know or something like that, whatever. This one in particular definitely had like a piece of myself in it, because it's a personal story, whatever. But
Hmm.
like, I can go in and, like, you watch the audition tape. First of all, you just want to make sure somebody can, like, interpret the scene. You know, that's a very basic level. It's like, can this
Right.
person interpret the
Yeah.
scene, right? Say the words in a way where it feels natural and feels,
Yeah.
authentic and stuff like that, right? But like the extra layer to that is like, I have a version view of my head in my head of a character, but then when the actor comes in and they do it and they surprise me with their interpretation of a character, their interpretation of a scene, That's really like the money right there. It's just like, oh, they did something I didn't even think about, but it's interesting and it's drawing me in, and it's like, it's not even a way that I even looked at it or viewed the scene, but it's like, oh, that's good, whatever, right? Because this is the whole, like, all the collaboration. I write and I direct, whatever. I tell cinematographer, like, this, I want to put the camera here, I want to do it like this, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, and I write the words, and like I might give notes to an actor in terms of based on what my needs for like the broader story, whatever. But at the same time, like, this is a collaboration, right? Like, actors act, that like, you're bringing your work as an artist, your craft as an artist to this film the same way I'm bringing my craft as a writer and director, and those two things kind of coalesce, and it kind of makes the thing, right? And so, for and then on top of that, on another level, especially when you're like looking for like your lead, whatever, you want somebody who's like literally like has just that charisma that's like drawing an audience in and making them root for them or like be on their side and stuff like that, right? And that's that that movie star kind of quality that everybody kind of looks for, So when and it's like we had a lot of talented actors, read for this, right? But like, when I saw like your tape, there was something very like raw and primal to your read that really drew me in and really surprised me and really said was like bringing something extremely interesting to the role that that I had even, it was like we were kind of finding these crevices in the role and in the scenes, and kind of filling them in a way that I didn't even know they could be filled, right? And so, that's kind of the thing, is like you want somebody who's just like surprises you and like is going to enhance what you do, not just do it in a certain way. It's going to enhance what you do as a writer and bring something to the table,
right.
That you couldn't have brought yourself, right? And that's like the basic thing. And like when you read it was like, oh, okay, yeah, no, that guy, and that's kind of it. It's not really, it's a feeling. It's not really rocket science,
Yeah.
How did you feel
100%.
coming in to read? I know you're going to get into your backstory and all that,
100%.
but like, how did you feel? I mean, I say coming in to read, taping and like, what was that process for you?
Man, it's I did the audition. I'm not even playing, probably 4 hours. And the one I sent was the very last take, and it was because it's you have all the, when you get sides, like you supposed to, I read through it a couple of times, and then I start like getting ideas and stuff like that, and I was so focused on like trying to make sure I hit all these beats and like make sure like, oh, here's a beat shift right here, make sure I hit that, and I was so focused on making sure that it was like this linear path, instead of just really trusting my instincts and trusting my gut to be like, okay, this might not feel like how I wrote it should feel, but like the more I did a little quick deep dive into like grief and everything, and it's like there's no linear path with grief. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, oh, it's okay that like this might come up at this moment, and it's like that's quote unquote out of character. Like my brain is literally trying to scramble. So like I'm like, I just lean back, like just trust whatever comes out. Like even if it's like a long ass pause that might feel weird, like just trust it. And so it was literally the last take that I'm like, I told my brother, bro, I'm gonna do one more and then I'm done. And I literally did it, and I was like, yeah, that's it. That's the one, man. Send that in. And like it felt good. Because especially when you get stories like this, like you really want to honor like the writer director. I mean, in any project you want to honor them, but like especially something that's so close to home. So sometimes I'll add pressure to it, like, okay, no, I have to make sure that I hit these beats so that I tell the story I want to tell.
Yeah, it's fine.
Like, man, just get that shit up. Excuse me, I cuss. Okay, yeah, man, get that shit up.
That's crazy, because it's like actor brain,
you know what I mean,
versus you're just human brain. Like, there's a craft and there's a skill to it, and there's certain structure of how you should do stuff. But then there's just like sloppy life. There's just, man, I don't think through all the beats, man. Whenever, I'm going through life and some and stuff go down. You know what I mean? Like I just live it.
Sometimes I do. I'd be like, damn, maybe I should say that.
I mean, that's real too. I mean, like
But
the
for the most part,
character
yeah.
is messy. You know what I'm saying? Like Noah, as he's kind of going through the story.
Yeah.
I mean, like the whole thing is set at a repast after his father's funeral, and what's going on inside him is a mess. You know what I mean? Like he's you know,
I mean,
he's sad, he's
yeah.
angry, he has guilt, he has regret, whatever. So his estranged uncle shows
So
up,
much, yeah.
you know, and he needs to find somewhere to direct his anger. You know what I mean? And so like all these things are happening, and you know he's still he's still trying to find these crevices for like joy, and trying to remember that he can actually still feel joy, right?
Yeah.
You know, so all these things are happening, whatever, and it's all kind of like a jumble inside him as he's kind of going through this day, right? And feeling all these things amongst his family and his friends and stuff like that. And so, like, you know, there's a Elia Kazan, the legendary kind of director. You know, he did Streetcar Named Desire. He did on the Western, on the Waterfront. You know, all these different on Broadway and in film, right? And like, you know, I read his book and stuff like that, and like on directing. And you know, one of the things he said about like casting was, for the most part, when casting an actor, and mind you, this dude like cast like Marlon Brando and like basically like, you know, he's like, you know, things with casting, like you want to cast an actor who is 90% the character. If you can find an actor who is 90% the character inherently, then you can get the other 10%, you know, just through like the actor's craft, or just through, you know, the notes you give him, stuff like that. You can get the other 10%, right? And so, you know, I think about that a lot when it comes to casting. Is like, does this person feel like this character? You know, does he feel like, you know, who he is, and does he understand this character inherently and stuff like that? And so, like that, you know, that's honestly like, you know, and truth be told, you know what I mean, like in my mind's eye of who, like, you know, like Noah like was, right? You know, like he didn't say like look like you, Landon. You know what I mean? You know, like again, everybody saying, oh, like, you know, Noah is essentially like, you know, you, Ryan, whatever. Like, you know, look, like you're a lot taller than me. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, it's all good. You know,
just a little bit.
You know, but like in my mind's eye, it didn't look like you. But then I saw you read, it's like, oh, that's him. You know what I'm saying? And like you try to go into casting not having a set idea. You try to be open to surprise. You know, you try to be open to discovery, right? And so that like that's why you gotta hopefully get a really good casting director. You know, and we did on this Maya Giovanni, whatever. Who then like, you know, kind of brings brings you actors, whatever, like who you wouldn't have necessarily thought of before. You know what I mean? Like, cause like we go through the whole like process, right? Like just like from the standpoint of when it comes to casting, like, okay, let's see if there's like some names we can get, some people that people know about, blah blah, that will help us like maybe get the financing and stuff like that. But beyond that, I told Maya, I was like, bring me actors, man. Like we can handle the rest. You know, bring me really good actors, and so we can make a really good film, right? And you know, that will draw an audience in, and like can really kind of tell this story the right way, and we'll go from there. You know what I mean? I think Hollywood does this thing, and it's actually kind of like strange now that, you know, we still kind of go through these machinations, whatever. Like Hollywood in general does this thing, whatever. Like, oh, we have to have stars. We have to have stars, whatever. But I'm like what's a star?
Right.
Honestly, you know.
I mean, everything is so
we
everything
keep going back to the same,
like,
the same
you know
people
what I mean?
going back to the last 30, 40 years, and we still keep going back to those same movie stars, whatever. and that's kind of like why budgets are bloated and stuff like that because of what they are, whatever, whatever. What Hollywood used to do was find
Yeah.
somebody who had something and develop them into a star, right? And just try to like build them up and like we're gonna do this movie and then we're gonna do this movie and then we're gonna do this movie and then we're gonna do this movie, whatever. And then like they kind of create a star, you know, and we kind of develop it and cultivate them into that movie star that we want, whatever, through the roles that we, you know, through the roles that they're selected for and stuff like that, you know. And so even for like us when we were doing kind of talking about Between Two Booker and like we want to do this film, they wouldn't like as the first one, they want to do the next one and the next one. I was like, look, we can find really good actors, and then we can just grow with them, you know. And that's you know, for me that's the money right there in terms of like, they may not necessarily be like name brand right now, but if we keep growing with them, they could be, you know.
100%. Pretty good track record too, Ryan.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, we've done pretty well in that regard in the past, you know, like Corlandos is referring to Giovanna Depo, who's the leader.
I mean, Walter Fauntleroy
doing his thing.
Megan Sousa is doing a lot, on the comedy circuit and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like, so like, yeah, like we can find really good actors and just grow with them. You know what I mean? Like that's me. Like I just want to tell great stories and like we were kind of chatting before this, before we started, whatever, about a particular person, stuff like that. Like who's a big star, or whatever. Like there's a movie I was trying to do years ago, the feature, and I was at one of the agencies, whatever, and they kind of brought this person up, and this person was like really, really famous, but I wasn't like, oh, but are they the right person for the the story? And the answer was no,
right for the story.
And so
no, for you, the answer for me was like.
There are other considerations in play. You know what I'm saying? So
but that's what separates true artists and auteurs from just bottom line producers who want the film made. Like,
I feel you. You know, but the thing you're trying to do, you try to find that happy balance, right?
I'm with you, man.
Between, and this is what all of the cinema is trying to find that balance between the art and the commerce, right? And so that's kind of what it is. Anyway, Landon, let's just talk a little bit about just like your story, where you're from, how you kind of got into acting, how you got into this whole thing.
Yeah. For sure. So it all started March 30th. No, I'm just playing. So my mom, she was once upon a time. So my mom was in the Army. So we moved around a whole bunch. And so I was actually born in Fairbanks, Alaska. Me and my sister. So we were born up there. I just went up there for the first time. I think it was 2019. Oh man, it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. So that's my first time back since I was born there.
Wait a minute. I know I'm messing.
So we were born there, and then from there, like
I've never met a Black person born in Alaska in my life.
Here's the trip part. Actually,
my sister was there, so that's two of us.
Black person who's from Alaska. Howard with me. Grew up in Alaska.
If you Black and born in Alaska, I think you have to go to Howard. Like you need to. There has to be.
You got to get some extreme Black in you. Yeah. You got to go to HBCU. I got a story about Howard too. I think I told you. So yeah, I was born in Alaska. Mom was in the Army, so we moved around a whole bunch. I mean, we were in like Kentucky, Kansas, Colorado, Virginia. Like, man, I went to. It was a lot, and I think the cool part about it was that I got to experience so many different parts of the country and so many different types of people. And this app came out, and it was called Vine. And so one of my friends from Kansas was like making these little goofy videos. And he was like, man, you gotta hop on this app, dog. It's such a fun app. So I'm like, let me check it out. I get on there, so I'm making like little goofy videos and stuff like that. Because usually every year I play football, basketball, and then run track. But I had got a full scholarship to Coastal Carolina to play football. So that was the only year in my life I didn't run track. So I didn't run track my senior year. So I'm coming home and now I got all this time I've never had in my life. And so I don't know what to do. You know what I'm saying? And so now I'm on this app Vine every day, just making like 10 little comedy videos. And then like I start to like gain an audience off of it. And I think it was like the summertime I had like 100,000 followers. And this was back in the day. So 100,000 followers back then was like, people was like, yo, this is crazy. Now you see 100,000 people be like, oh, that's it. Like it's a whole, anyway, that's a whole different story. And I remember going to the mall one time with my friends and this dude was looking at me and I'm like, hey, yo, I think he trying to like fight or something. He's like, hey man, I'll follow you on Vine, man. You funny. And I was like, oh. And I just remember being like, damn, this is a whole different experience. I've never, usually it's from like sports and stuff. So like to hear that was crazy. Because in my mind, the only way that I was going to be successful was via sports.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think I specifically remember we were right in front of the Apple store because it was the first time I'd been like, oh, damn, all right, maybe I could do something with this. But again, sports, I ain't thinking nothing about no arts, nothing about acting, nothing like that. So I ended up going to college and I keep making these videos and stuff. I'm also playing football. I'm also drunk every day. It was a crazy time, man. Coastal was crazy.
Wait,
so
was it like you and Aaron Donald?
No. I ain't gonna drop no names, but yeah, man, it was crazy because I kept making these videos, and I was like, dude, I love being in front of a camera. I love creating. It somehow got into an intro to theater class, and I'm also part of me was like, dude, what are you doing? Like that ain't for you, man. Like you know what I mean? Like you a football player, we going to the NFL, like that's gonna be the thing. And I just kept making these videos, kept growing this audience. And I had a manager at the time. So now I'm making money and stuff. And he's like, yo, you ever thought about like taking this stuff serious, like really pursuing it? And I'm like, man, nah, man, I'm a football player. What you mean, bro? Like I play football, like sports, that's my life. And I don't know what it was. It was one day, it was at a mall again. I'm at the mall and I called my manager, my boy Edgar, my best friend. I mean, this dude was like, help get me where I'm at today. And I was like, I think I moved to LA. Because all the Viners and everybody was moving to LA and everybody looked so happy online. And I'm in college, like, damn, man, all I'm doing is drinking and making little videos. And I just literally dropped full scholarship. I went to my coach's office and I was like, hey, coach, I think I'm gonna go to LA. Like, I want to go out there and like pursue this thing because I can always go back to school. But like this thing, I don't know how long this window's open for me. And he told me this one thing. At the beginning of the year, he was like, if anybody on full scholarship at any point feels like this football stuff ain't for them, let us know and we'll honor your scholarship for a semester after you decide to leave. So I go in there and I'm like, yeah, I tell him the stuff. He's like, that's good. And I'm like, so you know how you said that you would like honor the scholarship? He's like, I never said that. You never said that. And so that was my cue. I was like, oh no, you really got to go, bro. Like, let's go right now. So I packed my stuff up, my dog, and came to LA and continued to drink. It was just, the first year was just going to clubs. Like I was living the LA life, you know what I mean? And doing all these things and was broke. I was broke as hell, man. I was spending all this money. I had made like 100,000 off just social media videos. And I saved $0. My account was negative half the time I was there. But it was fun. It was for everybody gotta have like their LA experience, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a lot though. And then because I was broke, my mom was in the Army and she had this thing called the GI Bill, which is if you go to school, they'll pay for your education and then you also get a stipend on top of it. So I was like, so I ain't got no money, but if I go back to school, I'm gonna get some money. And so I'm looking at like USC, UCLA, and I'm like, I need what? I said, no, I ain't doing that. So then I found this film school with a 99%. This is crazy. This is the first time I'm saying this out loud. A 99% acceptance rate. LA Film School. I said,
Bingo.
I'm gonna go to LA Film School and get my money. So I go in there. I literally went just to like get some money because I was broke as hell. And when I get in there, the first class I had was film history, and I just remember watching all this, and I'm like, oh, there's a whole world out here of this. I never watched a lot of shows or TV or film. Like a lot of times people reference films, I'm always like, yeah, and I haven't seen it. So I'm just now starting to catch up with like watching films. You know what I mean? Like I just watched Casablanca a couple of weeks ago. That thing still hold up, man. I'm like, hey,
Yeah.
it's a great movie.
Yeah.
Yo,
But I mean, I'm sorry, we watching the Friends, dog. They be anytime anybody walk past the front, I got the killers with me.
don't worry about it. We already here.
All good.
And so I remember being in film history, and that was really the first time that I was like, oh, I want to do this. Like, I really want to pursue this thing. But I wanted to focus more on writing and directing. So then I'm going through film school, and I'm just having a time. Like, the money was cool, but just learning the craft, like learning this language of film and learning how to tell stories. Like, I loved editing. Which I now no more. But it was, I don't know, it was just eye-opening to me how much you can influence or change someone's perspective on things just by the frames you put together.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I just fell in love with it. And now I started directing my own stuff. I had a web series I did called Just Another Sitcom. And it was like, it started off as a parody of like other sitcoms and then slowly evolved into like its own thing. I did a bunch of short films. And it was the first time I was really exploring things that were outside of comedy. You know what I mean? Like exploring all these different, it felt like it was like this untapped potential that I had never really pursued or like felt like I had permission to pursue. You know what I mean? And film kind of gave me that like avenue to do it. And so then now I'm like, yeah, this is what I'm doing. I'm gonna be writer, director, boom, boom. Now I'm gonna go to acting class, learn how to talk to my actors. I'm reading all these books and stuff. I'm reading Sanford Meisner on acting, all this stuff. Step into the acting class, fell in love again, man. I said, oh, this is crazy. This is the thing right here. I started off at Playhouse West, and I'm going there January 2020. So I'm in there. I'm like, yo, this is crazy. Like I'm doing Meisner, so you know the repetition. Like my connection acting up.
No,
Okay. So I'm doing the whole repetition thing. You know, the pinch and the ouch, living truthfully under the given imaginary circumstances. And I just remember sitting there, and I had felt something I had never felt before. Like, again, that thing of like feeling alive. I felt like I was floating, and I remember really connecting with my partner for the first time. And I was like, damn, like there's storytelling and there's like living in the story. Like, that's what I want to do. Like, I remember the exact moment being like, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. Like this thing right here. And so I'm in class January 2020. March 2020, pandemic. I said, man, come on, dog. So now I'm setting up Zooms like with all my classmates because I understand. I mean, it's a crazy time. The teachers were like, yo, it's a pandemic going on right now. Like, we're trying to survive. We ain't worried about acting. But I was like, no, like I need this thing. And so I'm setting up Zooms every single week. Like, all right, we're gonna do this. We'll practice. We'll do Meisner right here. We'll study scripts right here. And I mean, like, every week, then it turned into twice a week. And like for the whole year, like I'm doing these Zoom classes basically with my classmates. You know what I mean? The teachers even came in a couple of times and they like, you know, talked to us and everything. And I just had that itch, man. Like I'm like, I need to do this. Like if not for someone else, for myself. You know what I mean? Cause it just felt like, I know some people say like it's therapeutic acting. And I agree with that, but I also it just opens so much of what the world is to me. Sometimes I can get like cynical about things, you know what I mean? Like, oh, people are so negative nowadays. But just watching Willy Wonka or Wonka, you know what I'm saying? Like just watching certain things remind me of like, oh, there's so much beauty in the world, man. Like this is a beautiful life that we have. And it just
Mhm.
makes me appreciate different things.
Mhm.
So I was doing that, and then, man, I'm rambling right now. I'm on a roll right now.
Keep cooking, bro.
Yeah. So we're in the pandemic, and the whole thing happened with George Floyd. And at the time, I was living with these three white guys. So it was, I remember sitting at the table and we're like eating, and they're just chilling. You know what I mean? I mean, it didn't even seem to phase them.
Mhm.
And I just remember being like, man, I'm fucked up right now. Like I can't even think straight. And
Mhm.
I'm side eyeing them and everything. Like, how are y'all not affected by this? Like, this is it's so much just like this overbearing weight on me everywhere I go. You know what I mean? And like, I'm looking at y'all and y'all are laughing, scrolling on TikTok. I'm like, how? And I just couldn't fathom that there was like this other world that people lived in where it's like, oh, I'm not affected by that.
Mhm.
And then we ended up talking about it and everything. And like, they were like, yeah, I'm sorry. It's just, it's not, it's so foreign to them. You know what I'm saying? And so I ended up making this short film called The Black Friend. And it was literally about this group of friends who are sitting there eating and they're talking about everything going down right when the shutdown of the pandemic happens.
Mhm.
And I remember doing, so we're shooting the thing and we're on like the last thing, the last scene where I have like this whole monologue about like really just talking about how I feel.
Yeah.
And we do it. It's solid. It's good. And then my roommate Nick, one of the white guys who I like based it off of, who actually was a DP, super talented dude. That's my dog. But he was like, "You should do one more." And I'm like, "Oh my god, all right, man." And it was the first time I really just like let go with lines. Like, and I remember it was almost like an out of body experience. It was to this day, man, the craziest thing because it felt like I was watching myself. Like, I'm like, damn, that dude is that's him. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's this character. And I remember specifically there was this one part. I never forget this. I was saying the lines, and I'm like, I started gritting my teeth, and I'm like, it was just dog, it's hard to explain like the feeling of like letting yourself over to the circumstances and just you
Yeah.
start doing things like you trust every single movement that you do. It's like it's all connected. You know what I'm saying? And you're flowing. You know what I'm saying? Like the lines are just coming at you, like truthfully just coming at you.
Mhm.
I will
Mhm.
say this, Landon, not to interrupt your flow, but that was one of the things that I really enjoyed about not only your performance, but just going back and looking at some of your other stuff. And I don't know, I mean, you have to towards the end like tell people where they can find you and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But I think I saw it from your reel or something like that. But there was a couple scenes. One particular was in like a hospital or something like that, where
Oh
your
yeah, yeah,
character
yeah.
and a baby's mama or something like that. And there's this power in intensity under control.
Hmm.
And that was one of the things that I enjoyed most about not only your audition for this project, but some of the other work that I saw. Like you had the ability to have extreme intensity in the moment, but also like in a controlled manner. And you as filmmakers, you know, like there's certain parameters that you have to be in when you know between action and cut because we're trying to capture something in a
Right.
particular way with lighting. So there's a lot of constraints, and you unless you're shooting cinema verite style and this and that, you really have to hit your mark. You got to stay in your light
Right.
and all that
Right.
stuff. Be able to do that and to seem to the viewer as completely unhinged but controlled, like
Yeah.
it's a beautiful thing to watch. It's
Yeah.
almost like a chemical reaction that's like just beautiful for me. And
Yeah.
so when you see that, immediately my mind goes back to watching you in those scenes, and I'm like, yeah, I imagine that felt good. Like
Oh
it
my
feels
God.
good to watch you do it. So
Yeah.
I
It's
imagine.
it's a man, it's a feeling that, and it's that thing of like chasing that first high. You know what I mean? I'm like, damn, and I've been lucky enough to like graze that again, but I've never had that experience. I mean, it was an out of body experience. It was crazy. Uh, so that's kind of what I've been doing. And then like last year, I started doing a bunch of commercials. I signed with this agency, Coast to Coast Talent Group, and I mean, they've been amazing. And then also I got this other agent, Forward, and I mean, both the agencies I'm with, they're amazing. They're great people. You know what I mean? They give me a lot of stuff, especially when it's like such a down period right now. But they give me so many auditions, great auditions, and yeah, man, that's been how I've been paying my bills. So last year was the first year that I was able to like fully live just off my film and TV stuff. Well, mostly commercials, but yeah, it was a great feeling to be like, oh, I can survive off of this. So yeah. And then morning. Yeah, man. We can get into that.
Yeah, man. Let's get into it. Like how did it come to you? You know, what you know when you first I mean, it was audition, right? So like you first got like the sides, right?
Yeah.
What drew you to it, really? Like, what even made you pick up the sides?
So I do be submitting on Actors Access, even though my agents be like, "That's what we're for," and I'm like, "Yeah, no, I hear you. I like to do it too sometimes." And so I had submitted to it. I remember reading the breakdown, and it was talking about basically Noah grieving, and then like his uncle comes. And I was like, okay, and you know, I click on it and I submit for it, and then I read the sides, and I was like, oh man, I was like, oh, this is kind of fire. I'm like, hey, yo, this is heat. And so I had DM Maya, and I was like, hey, I just got the breakdown for this thing. Can you send me the full script? And she was like, if you get a callback, I can. Basically, I mean, she said it in a nice way, but she basically said like, hey, if you get a callback,
Maya being a good soldier.
Oh man, she was great. And I want to say that she was following me before then too, actually. I think she was following me before then, but I was just like, damn, man. And it's just sometimes you get things that I've gotten some auditions where it's like, all right, nothing about this really excites you. You know what I mean? But then there's these type of projects where you get it and it's like, boom, boom, idea. You get all these ideas about the character and stuff. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Now, anytime I'm getting goosebumps talking about this. Anytime that you like instantly gravitate towards a project, I'm like, I got to do this. Like, I got to do this. And then fear starts to set in because then I'm like, oh, can I do this? You know what I mean? Yeah. And so it's this, I mean, it's almost like instantaneous too, like, oh, damn, can I do that? You know what I'm saying? So yeah, just doing my little baseline research on like grief and everything. And this is actually the book that I read first, C.S. Lewis, The Grief Observed. And just basically, so C.S. Lewis, his wife had passed away. And so he's documenting like his whole journey through grief. And you see like the ebbs and flows of like, he'll have a good day. And like, then the next day he's like, my heart is shattered. And I remember him saying this one thing, talking about, he felt like he was in this thing called the Other People's Club. And it's basically like, you're a part of this exclusive club that nobody can even imagine being a part of. And then he also talked about feeling like there's a blank, like this invisible blanket between him and like people. I mean, there was like these specific things. It was that. And then talking about everybody, it almost felt like everybody felt like they had to say like, oh, I'm sorry for your loss or something. And so he was like, I'm upset that people feel the need to say that. But then I'm also upset when people don't say it. So it's this again, this place of like, you feel mad at the person, you know what I'm saying? Then you're mad at the person that died, you're mad at the doctors, you're like, what kind of God would do this? Like there's so much, there's all these different emotions that are like fighting for space inside of you. And that's kind of what and I'm like, I've been blessed enough to like, I lost my uncle. I got a tattoo for him, but he was also older. He was in his 70s. You know what I mean? So like, I've never experienced, I don't want to say that type of grief, but I've never really experienced that type of grief within like my immediate family. You know what I mean? So it's, your brain will kind of fight to go there, you know, to not go there. I mean, and so that was kind of like one of the hardest things about it was like, you know what I mean? Of course, we're acting is the art of empathy. You know what I mean? So I'm like, yeah, how would that feel? Like, to really not be able to ever see this person that meant so much and is literally ingrained into the fabric of who I am. And like
Mm-hmm.
the finality of it, like that where you saw him last, that's the last memory that you'll have of this person ever. There's no more creating new memories with this person.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And I'm like, of course that gets heavy on me, but I'm like, even that's because part of me still knows that person is still there. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? So that was one of the scariest things, was like, damn, really trying to put myself in this character's shoes, in Noah's shoes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I remember when like we first like sat down to talk about this. You pointed out a poem. I think it was Maya
When great
Angelou.
trees fall. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. And like you pointed the poem out to me, and like I went home and I love Maya Angelou, but I hadn't been familiar with that particular poem, whatever. Um, so I went home, I looked it up, and I read it, and it was such like an exciting moment, just to me. And I was like, oh, like he gets it, like
Mm.
he understands the assignment here. You know what I mean? Just the standpoint of like, and then like that's the thing. This is the thing about like what I love about cinema and filmmaking is that we're taking all these disparate art forms, kind of mashing them together, whatever, and see
Yeah.
if we can create something out of that, right? And so, like for me, just as as a director, whatever, like the thing I love most about filmmaking is just like bringing all these different artists together, and like we're just kind of like just bouncing off each other,
Yeah.
right? And creating off each other and building off each other, whatever, to create a thing. So like something that's in my head is enhanced just by other people's ideas,
Yeah.
right? And like just like bringing their talent and expertise and their experience and whatever to the project, and it becomes not the thing that was in my head, but something better,
Yeah.
right? You know, and so like just even for me, just like director actor relationship, whatever, especially with your lead actor, whatever. Like the you know the key thing is like we're kind of like in lockstep in terms of like what this character is and what we're trying to do, what we're trying to show, and what we're trying to depict, and like the feeling
Yeah.
we're trying to convey, right?
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
so, I mean, because like when I read that poem, like when a great tree falls, even like that, like when a great tree falls, whatever, and like just the aftermath of it, right?
Hmm.
And that's kind of like what mourning is. It's literally like Noah and his mother Sonia and his sister Sherry, whatever, and like even his estranged uncle, James, Noah's estranged uncle James, whatever. They're all kind of dealing with the aftermath of this thing. Even like Noah's, Noah's two best friends who are also, uh, it's picked in the film, like Alex and John. They are really close friends with Noah, and like they're also dealing with this
Yeah.
loss. You know what I'm
Like
saying?
I think like his dad probably coached John too. You know what I mean? Like they
Yeah.
all had this relationship with them. So it's again this great tree that
Mm-hmm.
fell down, and it's affected the entire forest, like the entire ecosystem. You know?
Everything. I remember when my father passed, a really good friend of mine who I grew up with, he told me, he was like, "Yo, man, like it's crazy, like 'cause, his parents had gotten divorced like when he was young and stuff like that, he was like, "Yo, man, it's so crazy, like your dad was like my depiction of like fatherhood,
Mm.
like just like
Yeah.
what it means to be a great father man. Like your dad was like my vision of that." You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so that's what it was. You know what I'm saying? Was just like, so when you sat down, we kind of discussed that and stuff like that. I was like, oh man, like I felt like, okay, I made the right choice here in terms
Yeah.
of like catching this role, and that just meant so much because especially like with this too, you it literally is like I'm handing over part of myself,
Yeah.
right? In terms of this character, right? And so you want to make sure like that little piece of yourself that you're kind of like here, right?
Yeah.
You're hoping that uh whatever that that piece of yourself is in good hands, who's actually gonna like take care of it,
Oh
right?
man.
You
It's
know, Yeah. And so like, yeah, like that's the kind of like the beautiful thing like of this, right? You know, and even you just talking about like your journey about, you know, how you kind of came into this realm, right? You know, of like of being an artist, being a filmmaker, being an actor, stuff like that, and like how, you know, it just you discovered something about yourself in the doing of it, right?
Yeah,
Because like
yeah.
it's about discovery, right? Like, you know, I always I keep mentioning I'm probably broken right at this point. I keep mentioning like this James Baldwin quote that always like resonated with me in terms of like, you know, like the onus of the artist, whatever, is like give that little piece of yourself,
Hmm.
you know, that you think is only germane to yourself, and it's like to hand it over to the masses, whatever. Because like, you know, you're basically your idea, your the whole point of being an artist is like get a little piece of yourself to like show anybody who inherits this world how to survive it, right?
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know, and you know, you think that, you know, that little piece of yourself is only germane to yourself, right?
Yeah.
But it really is like it's so universal,
man.
right? You know, and so like I mean, even with this, like, oh, this I wrote Morning very specifically for like my experience of like what I was going. It was like my catharsis to like kind of write the story, try to make this film, whatever, you know. And people were like this one you want to make first? Like, I have to make this.
Yeah,
Right? Like there's no there like I am there's no, literally like there's nothing I have
yeah,
to make, like there's nothing I can do about it. It's like I'm on a train, the train is going,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
You know? And so, you know, and I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna, this is a little piece of myself and like what I'm going through, and I got to get it out, whatever. But then as people read the script, and this was, you know, and like you think you do that, and you're like, does anybody? Like, nobody gives a shit. Nobody
does
cares about this.
yeah, anybody care about this shit?
You know what I'm saying? Right. But then people read the script and like the feedback comes back and they're like, oh, like, yo, like this really resonated with me. This really meant something to me, blah, blah, you know what I mean? And that means so much. As
Well,
that's like, it's like why you do it, you know?
the thing for me that resonated so much, and Ryan and I both lost our fathers probably about a year apart.
Hmm.
So I understood what he was going through on a different level.
Yeah,
But also at the same time, like you mentioned earlier, Landon, like being fortunate enough and blessed enough not to have lost a person close to you. But grief, man, is so multifaceted, in my
yeah,
opinion, that it's not just the loss of a human.
yeah.
Like you lost at one
Relationships
point,
and
like your path, like hearing your story, like you were on this trajectory to be an athlete, and the
mhm.
goal was professional or bust, or whatever the case may be. And at some point, you decided to pivot, and that's a loss. That's potentially a loss of identity, a loss of who I thought I was, a loss of like what all my energy and effort and talent and time had led to, and now what? Like, you know what I mean? So
Yeah,
like, it, like you said, it could be relationship, it could be your identity, it could be, um, honestly, friendships. You mentioned about
man.
20 George Floyd and all that. Like, there was a lot of people who showed themselves to me during that time frame in a way that I had never seen them before, and I was like,
Yeah,
oh, this is how you really feel. Like, well, we can't really rock together anymore.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
knowing this is the real you. So like grief can surface and be demonstrated in a number of ways that I think that's why this project resonates with so many people, even if they're not
absolutely.
understanding that on a conscious level. They're
Hmm.
like, I've lost something in my life,
Yeah.
a job, whatever. And I get it. Like I get it.
Mm.
When you said talking about friendships, man, I've been like that's something that's really been like heavy on me lately, and it's such a weird thing because it's not even like I've lost friends because they've done something wrong. We've just grown apart. You know what I mean? Like there's just, and I think that's been kind of like heavy on me, especially lately. Because I remember when I first moved to LA, like, you know, I had my group, my guys, like, and they're still, for most part, they're still my brothers, but so many of us, we're doing so many different things. Like one of my friend, my best friend, Edgar, who's also my manager, like, he manages, I don't, you know, the artist Friday.
Mhm.
So that's his artist. And so they out of here. You know what I'm saying? So like they on tour, they doing all these different things. And it's been Like I'm so proud of him. You know what I mean? Like, because I remember we used to talk about these things all the time, but we also used to talk every day. You know what I'm saying? So like now we talk maybe like once every other week, and it, we just got to be more intentional about like actually making time for these things. But like it was, you miss the days when all your friends, like we lived 9 people in a 4-bedroom apartment. You know what I mean? And so
Yeah.
I think because I'm getting older, like I miss those days. Like I don't want to live in a 4-bedroom apartment with 9 people again, but I miss the
Right.
days when I did.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? All my best friends, like we're still friends, but it's a different time for everybody. We're in like a different chapter in all our lives. Like some of us are getting married. And so like I miss the days when we were like kids. You know what I mean?
I mean, that's the really interesting thing about like getting older, right? Is like you gonna get older and like make a little bit more money and kind of you kind of grow as a person, stuff like that. Like even if you become like successful, right?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of successful people like even like they miss the times when like they were struggling because like
Yeah.
they were struggling with people who they love. They're like, we're
Yeah.
struggling together, and this like we'll never have this time back. They're very
Right.
fond of those times when we were like, we try to get it out the mud, right?
Man, yeah.
And so like even me, like I remember, I mean, look, I'm still like friends, like close with my homies from Howard and stuff like that. I'm still close with my friends from USC, from grad school and stuff like that, right? And like we're all doing different things. We're all kind of different places. Some of us are in the industry, some of us are not. You know what I mean? And like that's it's whatever. But I remember when like we were trying to like 5 of us in the apartment, whatever, trying to figure out like, like when this happens, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that.
Yeah.
Like dreaming together,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And like that was a really special time.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Because life is that everything's not going to be exactly how you depict it, whatever. You know what I'm saying? It's things change, and the thing you thought you wanted, even when you get it, it may not be exactly what you thought it was going to be, and
right.
all those different things. You know what I mean? But I mean that's I mean that's the thing we try to depict as like as artists, stuff like that. You know what I mean? But yeah, I mean, like, so like for just to get back, whatever, like you eventually you did get the full script.
Yes.
For Morning. And when you read it, like what was your first feeling, your first thought?
Black. I remember reading it and being like, oh, this is black. Like just even like the little details of like people carrying the trays or like how certain people interact with other people. I'm like, it felt very black. It just reminded me of like my family reunions and reminded me of like graduations. I was like, I mean, goosebumps. I was literally like, oh, this black, man. And it just put the biggest smile on my face. It felt authentically black. You know what I mean? Let me not say authentically black, but it felt familiar to me. You know what I mean? So then that's when I was like, oh no, I'm getting this. Like I gotta, and that's why I put so much emphasis on like, no, I gotta hit these because it just felt like something I've been to. You know what I mean? Damn, maybe I'm like having a revelation now, but like it just reminded me of like my uncle's funeral. Yeah. So the ending too. Well, yeah. Say that, but yeah, I was
you can talk about it without talking
about. Yeah. I was like, okay, let me figure out that, and then there's what's happening throughout the story. Just trying to find what that thing was, and it's the same kind of thing of like all these ideas in my head are like, is that this or is that this? And it's like this, like actors were like detectives, so we're like trying to solve everything. Okay, what does this mean? What does this mean? What does this mean? And that's like for me, that's the exciting part of the work is like making the discoveries. And then once we talked about it, I was like, now that makes sense. It makes sense. It aligns with like that's my dogs. I don't know if y'all hear them outside.
You don't hear it.
But yeah, man, I loved it. And Noah's sister reminds me so much of my sister and how me and her talk too. It was so many things
Mhm.
just aligned. Like that's exactly how my sister would respond. I
Mm,
mean, to a T, that's exactly my sister Lauren. That's exactly how she would respond. You know what
mm,
I mean? Uh, my mom, not so much. My mom, look, my mom is funny. Uh, but yeah, man, and then when I know she's getting a little off subject, but then when I met the actors that were playing my mom and sister, like we ended up meeting for like 3 straight weeks, just like going over the script, talking character, and then just talking to each other, sharing stories and everything.
mm.
I'm like, y'all
Yeah,
feel like
we're
my
talking about Jasmine Sneeze and Regina Williams.
um
Yeah,
so fun.
yeah.
Like Jasmine just she had said something on one of my I posted on there. She was like, ah yeah, brother. Like I posted my reel. I was like, hey, that's my sister right there, man. That's my sister. Uh, but they felt like family too. Like they literally feel like how my family is. You know what I
Mm,
mean? Like they feel like an
yeah.
extended part of my family. So it was again this whole thing of like alignment. You know what I mean?
Hmm,
Um,
hmm.
but yeah, dude, again that script, man, I loved it. I love I love seeing people provide space for other people too.
Hmm.
You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Because I think, especially like as black men, it gets hard sometimes for us to take up space because I'm 6'3". I was 225, but now I'm 205. But I'm a big black dude. You know what I'm saying? So if I take up space, it's like double the space. Because naturally, when I walk into the room, I'm already taking up space, and so I used to fight with like taking my space, taking
Hmm.
ownership of my space, because I'm like I don't want to make people uncomfortable or anything. So then I would like end up shrinking myself or something, and I think that's a layer of grief that's not really talked. I mean, that paper you sent me, are you related to that person? Or
I'm not. I'm not.
y'all just had to say, okay.
Yeah.
You had to say, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, but just looking into like grief on top of being a black man, I mean, that's another layer that people don't even talk about. Like, I don't think talk about a lot of, you know what I mean? Like, how do I show up? Or like, what am I allowed to show up as? You know what I mean? I'm not allowed because if I start getting upset, now I'm the angry black dude, now I'm scaring people and stuff. You know what I mean? Um, so yeah, I forgot how I even got started with that.
You were just talking about like your feelings when you read the script and like taking up space and like
Yeah, yeah,
creating
yeah.
space for people.
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah. Taking up, yeah. I just love to see like people providing space, especially for someone that might not feel like they're allowed to take it up. You know,
Mm,
which I feel like
yeah.
part of Noah is like I don't want to, because then I don't know what's gonna come out. You know what I mean? Like if
Yeah.
I show up how I think I should, like how I feel in this moment, it might not be what y'all like, and I don't want to do that. I don't want to make people
Yeah.
uncomfortable. Like I don't want to do this in front of my family. You know what I mean? So again, I just loved seeing people allow space for a black man. You know.
Yeah. For sure. All right. And so like we're about to run out of time, stuff like that. But like we like to like end the show with just like when we have a guest on, like tell us like a little bit about like your favorite movie,
Oh,
and why.
Rush Hour 2. That's my all-time. I I ain't seen it in probably like a couple years. So we used to have a van, and we had three movies. Well, three tapes. A big ass van. It was crazy, unnecessary. So we had Rush Hour 2, My Big Fat Greek Wedding, and then my brother's highlight tape from high school. So I've
Hmm.
watched my brother's highlight tape like 100 times. I've watched Rush Hour 2 probably 1,000. I'm not even kidding, like 1,000 times. I've never seen My Big Fat Greek Wedding. I said, I'm not gonna watch it. I need to probably go back and watch it, but I used to know every single word. Get closer, oh, get closer. I'm better than that. Like Chris Tucker, I remember watching like, yo, this dude is it, man. Like he just got the thing, whatever it is. But you know, there's so many like memories and stuff attached to it, like taking these long family trips, and we just watching Rush Hour 2 on playback. Like we would rewind it, finish it, rewind it. You know what I mean? So like, on top of it just being a great movie,
Hmm.
like just
Hmm.
the things that I've attached to it.
Yeah. Yeah, nah, that's amazing because like I think it's like a perfect place to end because it's like, you know, sometimes people are like or like talking about me when I talk about cinema, like, oh, Ryan's a cinema snob and this and the third, whatever. And it's like, no, man, I love Rush Hour 2 too, man. I love Rush Hour. Like, is there space for like really great comedies
Yeah.
still? Like, like the thing about it that's so like beautiful about that is like it brought you joy, right?
Man, absolutely.
Brought you joy, and like that's the movie you had access to, whatever. And like that's the thing, like you watched, and like it's the same, like kind of same thing for me, like growing up, like just watching, like I said it, but like my favorite movie is Jurassic Park, right? Favorite movie of all time, whatever. And then there's reason, many a myriad of reasons like why that is. It's like first movie I remember seeing in the theater. My dad took me. I was like 7 years old. It scared the shit out of me. It was probably bad parenting. You know what I mean? And then, it's even like the years since I remember like just like that's the first movie that I remember like being in love with at 7 years old, whatever. And then, and so like even now to this day, like I still, my little tribute to my father, like every day on his birthday, like I'll watch Jurassic Park. Like every day I watch Jurassic Park, whatever. That's my little tradition that I've created for myself, right?
Yeah.
And so yeah, man, like like Rush Hour 2, man, like man, like the thing, like that's the thing of the beauty about movies. They can make you laugh, they can make you cry, they can make you feel, they make you do all those things. Whatever. Exactly, that's the whole point. It's why we do it as artists and do this thing, whatever. That's beautiful.
Yeah, man.
I love it, man. I love it. Well, look, man, we cannot wait to see you do your thing on set.
Oh, man, I can't wait. I'm so excited.
Yeah. And all the other stuff that you have going on, because I know you're staying busy, like you said. So where can people find you? How can they rock with you? Where can they follow your journey?
Yeah. So yeah, you can follow me on Instagram at Landon Moss, TikTok, same kind of thing. I just finished a Lifetime Christmas movie. So that'll be coming out this Christmas. And there's a lead for it too, so that was fun. Like, you know what I mean? Actually getting to like play around and like have a little command in it, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then probably see me on some commercials too. Got a couple that are coming out soon. And yeah, that's pretty much it, man. You can stay up to date with the journey, or you can see me on Morning. Coming soon.
Coming to you. Coming
to you, man.
I love it, man. Well, look, listen, guys, if you want to know what we are in the journey, we have a website that you can always go and check out. We'll put the link in the comments. We are on another round of prep where we're moving into some pre-production stuff. So we want to make sure that you know exactly where we are in the process. If you're watching this in the future, we'll also be able to let you know where you can find Morning. So make sure that you check out the podcast notes. You can click the link in the description. Make sure that you follow us along on the journey.
Also, there's still avenues for you to donate. If you
That's right.
We still have a link up on Film Independent. We're still fiscally sponsored there. So donate to Morning. Help us get this movie off the ground and get it made.
Please and thank you.
Yes, we're trying to do some great things. So help us out. And so thank you, Landon. Stay on for a moment after we wrap up here, please.
I'm gone.
I had to make sure I save the audio, but yeah, thank you everyone for listening. We appreciate you. See you next time on the 22 Booker Podcast.
See you next time.